course. We're starting a new section today called Data Types and Objects in Python. And you're gonna be in this section for a while because we're talking about the very building blocks of the language. So to start off with some conceptual stuff, what a data type is as the name implies, it's a type of data. It couldn't be more obvious, but if I were to explain it, I would say that in Python, you're basically manipulating data. You're working with numbers, you're working with strings, you're working with lists of strings, you're working with lists of other lists, you're working with lists of data, and all of these are data types. So a number is a data type. It's a type of data which holds numerical digits that you can perform arithmetical operations on. A string is a data type which holds letters that you can perform string operations on, and we'll get to those in a bit. A list is also a data type whose sole function is to hold other data types in it in a systematic way, and it has its own data type functions as well, which help us to manipulate it. So there are there's a whole bunch of these data types, and there's a way to even make your own data types, but that's a bit advanced, and we'll get to that in the later parts of this course. In this course, we're going to be talking about the simplest data types and those that come in Python already. So let's get started. We'll start with the simplest data type, which is a number. So a number is a data type so a number is a data type that you can perform arithmetic operations on and also use for comparisons and stuff like that. Whatever you can do with numbers. So like you can check if 5 is less than 6. So this will return a Boolean data type, which we'll also get to. You can do basic operations. 5 times 5, that's 25. 5 less than 6, that's true. 5 equals to 3, that's false. So these true and false, they're Boolean data types. And you can also do 5 raised to the power of 3. That's how you do 5 exponent 3 on 25. Now under numbers come two different types. So there's integers, which are whole numbers: 5, 65, 73, 1, this giant number. All of these are integers. And then there's another type of number called a floating point number, or shortened to just a float number. That's how it's spelled, floating point number. And these are numbers that have a decimal point. So 5.1 times 35.6. It works in the same way, but there are subtle differences in how these two work and where they can be used, which is mostly incorporated into their relationship with other data types, and that you'll understand better when we start working with different data types together. And another thing to clarify is that any number that has a decimal point in it is a floating point number. So 5.0 is also a floating point number, even though 5 and 5.0 have the same value. So that's true, but their data type is different. 5 is an integer and 5.0 is a float. So there's a function in Python called type. I can check the type of 5 and I can check the type of 5.0. I get int, that's integer, and float, that's a decimal point number. Now as far as arithmetic operations go, they are your usual ones. Addition, so 5 plus 5. If you're wondering why I'm using 5 so much, it's because it's my favorite number. Anyway, that's off track. 5, we can, what happened here? We can do 5 minus 3, 5 minus 2, that's 3, though that's a basic operation. Then we can do 5 divided by, let's do a bigger number, 25 divided by 5. That returns 5.0. So this is to note that any division operation which uses a single divider, a single forward slash, will return a floating point number. Even if the answer is an integer, the data type returned will be a floating point number. However, if you want to get it as an integer, you can do 25 double divide by 5, and that will return 5 as an integer. And also, if I were to do an uneven division using the integer divider operation, it'll return me 5 because it truncates the decimal part. So what truncation is, basically 5.1 goes to 5, and this is truncation. And the same way 5.9 would also go to 5. You basically remove the decimal part, so in that way it's different from rounding off. It's called truncation. And the double divisor basically truncates the answer and returns the integer just the integer part. So yeah, that's about all there was for the numbers data type. Next video we're gonna get into the string that we've been demonstrating and what you wrote hello world in. So what's the significance of these quote marks and how you can use strings. See you then.